Hello, everybody. How are you doing this lovely, crisp Tuesday evening? Thank you for joining me on yet another edition of Five Star Radio. I appreciate you hanging out as per usual. My guest today, as always on Tuesdays, is the illustrious SteelFlyers. How are you doing today, my friend?
I am shining. How are you, man?
Shining. I love to hear it. I'm doing okay. I'm improved from where I was 24 hours ago.
Right.
I was coming in hot at this time yesterday. And
Yeah.
I like to be cool. I like to be controlled. My boys got me, rambling and ranting and screaming yesterday on the Monday edition of Five Star Radio. I feel closer to my normal stasis today.
Good.
Yesterday I was running on a lot of adrenaline.
Good. All right. So for those of y'all who don't know, and if you don't, well, you're missing out. But our man was live and on the ground, as it were.
I was indeed.
For the game. And how was the experience, sir?
It was, it was pretty good. It was, I had an amazing time in Pittsburgh. I got to really sort of soak up a little bit more of the city than I normally do. I kind of consciously took my time a little bit more.
Right.
And so that element was fun. I went with my sister who had never been before. So that was a really pleasant, experience.
Yeah.
But then on the opposite side of that, you have the game, and that I try to be, you guys know, I try to keep my real life separate and say it was still a good experience, but that was a tough.
Okay, that's the only reason why I asked, was because I knew you were going to be there and everything, and so I couldn't wait to talk about and to see how things went for you and everything like that, because I've been many times as well too, and it's always to me, even when you lose, you're a little grumpy when you're walking down the concourse, steps multiple times, but at least you enjoyed the fact that you lost.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what it is? It's September, and I mean, it's not like they got the doors blown off. I think the Raiders are moving in the right direction. It's September. I said it in the show, but what are you supposed to feel about the Steelers right now after 2 weeks? We watched them. They did. I said in the closing of Five Star.
Yeah.
They did exactly what we expect, which is the exact opposite of what we expect. and they went out and they beat the Bills in, I thought, a pretty surprising and almost convincing fashion. And then you play the Raiders and you kind of do what we know you do. I mean, this was such an emblematic of the last 6 years of Steeler football kind of loss, and I just felt like I've seen that story so many times.
Okay, so I'm going to try and be as positively optimistic as I can throughout this entire show. And if I ever stray very far, you have permission to crack me upside the head. Verbally. Yes, verbally. When I get too negative. All right. Mm-hmm. I agree. The game against Buffalo was, and what you said exactly rang true. They probably, everybody and their brother picked the Bills to win that game, and the Steelers rattled one off. And it wasn't just like, it looked like a day at the office. It looked like, it took them,
it looked like they belonged.
Right. There you go. Thank you. And then last Sunday came.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I have been a fan of this team for probably 3/4 of my life. From the time I remember being old enough to walk and talk and understand what a football was, I had something Steelers wearing on my body or self or something. Get what I'm saying, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Now, I take off the fan glasses and I put on the analyst glasses and I look at this and I went, oh my gosh, what happened? Okay. Listening to the press conferences of all parties concerned, meaning coaches, players, everything else, I heard exactly what you said, the same song and dance that I've been listening to for the last 6 years. Okay.
It was certainly familiar.
Why am I still listening to the same people telling me the same things over and over again and nothing seems to change?
I know. It's tough because we do this every year with Tomlin at some point, right? Where you go into it and you say, you listen to it and you say, wow, I like this guy. He's a good leader, et cetera, et cetera. He's a good man. And then there's always these moments where you come away being like, wow, I feel like for a guy that you consider to be elite, which I think even if you want to be hard at Tomlin, he still has one of the best resumes of any head coach in the league right now. I mean, that's inarguable just because of time put in, achievements. I mean, how many coaches have even won a Super Bowl? He's been to 2. I'm saying you still have to consider him somewhere in the upper half, even if you're being harsh on him. But it does seem like the output doesn't always necessarily match up to that. But then I take a step back and then I say, well, but how much better off have we been in the last decade, which we consider as Steelers fans to mostly be pretty disappointing? Still, that last decade would have been the best decade the Detroit Lions have had in 50 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're still...
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
we're still, like, compared to almost any team besides the Patriots.
Yeah,
and
we're spoiled.
I don't know, man. I see it, and I hate to get on my soapbox here, but I see it just with the way that people go on YouTube and take in content, because I look at my numbers, and I'm not saying I expect everybody to come back and watch lost episodes, but I mean, just based on the numbers and how much smaller they are on lost episodes, I mean, people think that the world is ending after one loss, and I just have to take us down to earth a little bit and say it is a bummer.
It is.
We're 1-1. We're tied for first in the division in September. The Steelers suck almost every September. I've been watching it for 25 years. They are usually terrible in September. And the only time that we're good early in the season, we're terrible late in the season, like the last couple years. So
right. Statistically, it was exactly what you're talking about. Statistically, in the last 10 years, depending on how well Pittsburgh does in the preseason, like, if we lose every game in the preseason, we're going to have a good year. No, I'm not kidding, right? If you go back and look, right, there's only been, there was that first year that Tomlin went 8-8 where they lost every single game in the preseason that year, right? But for the most part, when Pittsburgh loses their preseason games, they do really well, like, in the regular season. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so, but that's what makes this so difficult, because when you look at it as a fan, it's one thing. But then when you take the fan glasses off and you put the analysis hat on, right? And you start breaking this down.
Sure.
Okay? And you start looking at things, everybody looks at things on paper and everybody wants to be, the Monday morning quarterback and, whatever woulda, coulda, shoulda. Right. Well, okay. I'm trying to base this off of things that I've seen, things that I know, and tendencies that I see. You know what I mean? And we all talked about how Canada was supposed to be ultra self-aware of his own tendencies.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, we did. And we did not see that on Sunday at all.
It felt to me, I mentioned this yesterday, but it felt to me that, like, when they got in a hole, they reverted to what was comfortable offensively. It really felt like suddenly we were watching the exact same team from the last 3 years on offense. The what we've come to think of as the Fiechner Roethlisberger situation with the 5 wides, no protection. I didn't really get the game plan because you're playing a team that has a great pass rushing defensive line with Ngakoue and Max Crosby, who, by the way, is one of the most underrated players in this entire league. He is very impressive. And you know, you had Ben back there with no help. And how many times I saw Najee motioning out to be out wide. And he has the requisite skills and stuff, but he's not. We can't suddenly just act like he's prime Le'Veon Bell. Like, Le'Veon Bell took a couple years to learn how to be really good at that stuff. And I'm not saying Najee can't do it. I'm just saying I think maybe at this point it's still better if you keep him kind of in a little bit more of a traditional running back role, because when he was split out wide, I don't think Ben targeted him once. So what's the point? You might as well leave him back there and at least have the threat of the run.
Okay. I'm with you. And not only that, but he would be a protection.
Yes, of course.
An extra protection. Right?
And I don't know. I haven't looked at his pass protecting snaps specifically. I would venture to guess they probably have not been great.
Well, I will say this. There's
been a few times they put yesterday or Sunday especially. There was a few more times that Benny Snell was in the game, and I was like, I'm not sure what you're getting with Benny, except for he's gonna hit the assignment as far as a pass protector.
Okay, so that's why I was going. That's where I was going to kind of go with that. That's why we were seeing some of Benny Snell, because that's typically where rookies hit that roadblock.
Yeah, the technical elements.
Oh, wait a minute, I have to stay in block.
Yeah, because he never had to. He never picked up a guy for two at Alabama once.
That's
you kidding?
What I mean. Yeah. When you are the tailback, you're not the guy picking up the blockers. Now, here's the thing that's killing me, right? This is what's killing me here, okay? Mm-hmm. We signed a Derrick Watt.
Yeah.
Who was supposed to be an integral, air quotes, part of the offense.
Yeah, I think, I don't get lost in the Derrick Watt wash, so to speak, only because I think they see him more as Tyler Matakevich replacement than they do as a Rosie Nix replacement.
Okay, but just kind of follow my thinking on this a little bit. You got a veteran guy who's a good fullback, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a rookie running back, okay? Now, how many times did we see the Raiders line up in the eye or broken eye or split formation, right? How many times do we see that? Quite a few, right?
Sure.
Now, we've got this innovative guy in Canada. We've got this great fullback in Derrick Watt, who we all know he can block.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you got a rookie running back. You got a young offensive line. Why aren't you scheming?
Yeah.
To have Derrick Watt be in the play more to provide that extra lead block. You get what I'm going with here,
I do get what you're going with that, but I think what I would say is I believe that this trouble that they've been encountering putting drives together on offense since the second Ravens game. That's when the book really got out on them, right? We snuck by in that game last year, and then that was when there was that talk. Remember, Marlon Humphrey was like, Ben's literally just drawing plays up in the dirt at the line of scrimmage. We hear him calling the plays.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the difficulty is what's happened now is that defenses have realized, okay, Ben's not going. He either doesn't have the time or the physical ability to consistently hit stuff over our heads. So we're only going to play a single high safety. We're going to have a tight box. And I think the reason you're not seeing guys like Derrick Watt in the game is because they need any possible threat they have of beating somebody. They have to have out there. So you can't take Claypool or Deontay off the field hardly ever, because those are the only guys in the offense that can at least threaten the safety to step back. And if you continue to just have 8 in the box constantly, Najee's never going to run, and then the run game's never going to get better, then the pass game's never going to get better. And then
so you're making my point for me is this. Do the basics right and well and consistent.
I just don't think until the offensive line gets better and comes together, I just don't think any of the rest of it really matters, because Ben needs to start hitting shots deep, and he physically, I believe, has shown, especially against the Raiders, even though it was a loss, that he can physically still do that. Yeah. It's just that he doesn't have the time to do that.
When you're rushing it.
And he's just, I mean, literally, most of his deep throws were like literally a 3-step drop and flick it off his back foot because he just doesn't have the time. I mean,
exactly.
But the problem with that is, like, I'm willing to give the offensive line time to gel, but the quarterback's 40 years old and he is getting shellacked. I mean, there was a couple yesterday or Sunday where I couldn't believe his cleats didn't come off. I mean, I'm not even kidding. He was getting hammered. And how long do you think he's going to last? He's already on the injury report suddenly with a pec. The guy is, he's been through war. He can't be taking shots like this. He's not 26.
Like I said.
How many times do you see Tom Brady get hit hard? Not often.
And yeah, but every time you did see Tom Brady get hit hard, how many times did you see somebody go back there and help him up? I didn't see that very often.
Yeah, I did see that pointed out.
Okay, but more to the point of this. This is why I'm going with where I'm going. If you play basics, you have to play basics, because if you can't play basics, nothing else matters. If you can't run the ball, block, tackle, hustle, throw, whatever it is, if you can't do the basics, then it doesn't matter how many jet sweeps and how many motions and 5 wides and shotguns you have. None of that stuff matters.
No, that's true.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to get at, is you need to break it down and run the basics. Look, I played Madden football, right? The game. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, look, I am not going to sit here and tell you that I can play this game at all very well.
Yeah.
All right. I put on as many of the aids as I can.
Sure.
Okay, right? All right. It's just not my game. All right. But you know what I do consistently? At least every first down? Guess what? Off tackle run on the broken eye. And you know what? It doesn't matter that the defense knows it's coming.
Yeah.
They can't stop it.
Yeah. I mean,
guess what? You leave Fairmouth out there as your number 1 tight end, right? You bring Derrick in. You leave Dante out there. You leave Juju out there.
Yeah.
Right? And you got to get to the basics, guys.
Yeah.
You got to be able to hand the ball off, and that will lead to the play action, which then is where Ben can create. That is Ben's strong suit, when he is in play action, when everybody else is pump faked out of their freaking cleats, and he's got everybody separated. He can just pick and choose. So he's never had that opportunity except for 3 games where he's been able to just pick a defense apart. He's never been able to just kind of sit back there and bounce a couple of times and go, nah. Oh, that guy, Kuchu.
Yeah.
Right? You haven't seen Ben do that for years.
Well, he does that. He only does that every time he plays the Indianapolis Colts. I got to give credit. Ben owns the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. Literally, it doesn't even matter who's playing on defense there. He can do that all day, every time.
But you get what I'm saying, though, right?
No, I get your point. I think, and that's well taken. But I think I just think they have. I think we're hitting a point. I'm going to be careful what I say here because I don't want to be taken out of context, but I think we're hitting a point here where, all of the things to come together the way they need to for it to be perfect, or for the Steelers to excel and, achieve what they want to achieve, which is a high level of success. I just think the margins are getting so slim that I don't know what the long-term outlook is on this team because I'm still optimistic that they can compete. I'm just not sure that I'm that optimistic that they're set up to, offensively. I really am at a point where it's been so long now that I watching that Sunday night game. Did you watch that? The Chiefs and Ravens on Sunday night?
Bits and pieces of
Okay,
it.
but I mean, you've seen those two teams before, and when you watch them, or when you watch what Rodgers did last night, I haven't seen the Steelers do that on a consistent basis in a long time now, and I'm just wondering if they have the capability to do it, and I don't know. I don't know if I don't think it's the trouble I have with it is I don't think it's physical with Roethlisberger because I think he can still physically do it. I just think the last few years have affected him mentally, and I don't think he's seeing things right now. You see stuff on the tape where he's just missing stuff, and he's an 18-year vet. That interception he threw against the Raiders, I was like, you're just chucking that up. I mean, it's just, and something he said post game spoke to me, which was that he was frustrated that the offense wasn't working, that well or whatever. And he said something to the effect of, I put a lot of to steal a Keith Butler phrase, a lot of dadgum time into this. And he was talking about just, spending time really studying and learning the new offense and terminology and all that stuff, which is great. Ben, I'm glad for the last 18 years you didn't try that hard to study the playbook. Thanks.
You're waiting till now to do it.
Thanks for admitting it, but no, that's fine. He's always been an intuitive athlete, and that's why I think there's still a good chance he gets better as the season goes on because he's one of those guys that just needs to physically feel things. He's not. He's not an intellectual athlete in the way that a Tom Brady is, and I don't think that's a knock on him. I just think he's an intuitive athlete. He's a guy who has to feel himself. He is a guy who has to have his confidence working. And I just think I'm just seeing him second guess for just a quarter of a second too long. I think the throw that perfectly articulated to me was early on in the Raiders game. He did a little play action and chucked it deep to Chase. I think it was the first series. And Chase was actually open, but he threw it like 0.25 seconds late. And the safety got time to come over and break it up. But he's just off.
Okay. That I think is a combination of not having the time to stand back there and, bounce a couple of times and survey the field and you know what I mean? Look, the best way to, in my opinion, from all of the years of watching this team, of all of the ungodly amounts of rewinds that I've done to rewatch something like, did I just see that? Really? Did I just see that again? Okay. It's hard sometimes for me to look at this and go, you know what? I understand why Ben has doubts, and I understand why there's that 0.025 of a second in delay because he doesn't have the time, because the offensive line is not holding the blocks long enough for him to have the time. They're not doing the basics. I think losing Munchak from the offensive line coach was a huge blow to the Steelers because he instilled a blocking scheme that worked for the guys that were on the team. And he was that type of a coach where he could instill that kind of a blocking scheme with the guys that were on the team.
Well, I think Munchak was huge, and I don't discount what that loss meant, but I think it was also, it's a combination, much like the confluence of the three rivers in Pittsburgh. It was a confluence of Munchak leaving, the offensive line aging out all at once almost over the 2 years. I mean, literally, they all disappeared over the span of 2 years. And Le'Veon leaving. I've said this a million times, but just the way Le'Veon played the game, as much as Ben and AB were really the focal point, Le'Veon is what made that thing go. Because Le'Veon was just always there, and the threat of the run game and what he could do is what kept those linebackers, kept them honest. And I think they're struggling with that now. And I also think what they struggle with, and I think this is what's messing with Ben a little bit the last couple of years, is I mentioned this on the show last night. He doesn't have his cheat code anymore. And what I mean by that is AB was a cheat code. All else failed. It's 4th and 10.
Yeah.
You can drop back. You can chuck it up to AB. It's
there.
not always going to work, but you know what? It's probably a good chance it might.
Yeah.
You remember the one against the Browns in that game, that was the season opener? Remember that? And he chucked it way down the left. And Antonio was like the smallest guy in the middle, 4 defensive backs, and he went up and came down with it. And so I just think Ben doesn't know what his cheat code is right now, because they drafted Najee to be that guy, but obviously he's not that guy yet. The offensive line isn't there yet. And with the receivers, I think he wants to try to make Chase and Deontay into those guys. To me, the reality is Juju is the closest to that as far as being a finished product. I think Deontay and Chase are still cooking. And I just think he doesn't know 3rd and 10, like, what is my like instinctual, like, this is where I'm going, because there were so many times I think about that Chiefs game, the Chiefs playoff game. It's 3rd and 6 to finish the game, and you got to get it, and the game's over. Everybody in the stadium knows that it's going to be a drag to Antonio Brown, but it doesn't matter that you know that, because you can't do anything about it.
And I mean?
Yeah.
See, that's what the Steelers need to get back to. When they were playing under Bill Cowher, they had that. They had that swagger, that it didn't matter that Jerome Bettis was running off the right tackle, right? It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It's going to happen 30 odd times a game.
It's true.
Okay, and it didn't matter because Jerome would get his 110 yards every game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That is how you make Ben Roethlisberger successful. That is why him and AB were so electric, was because exactly what you pointed out. Le'Veon Bell was that threat that when Le'Veon Bell was on the field and you handed the ball off to him, you needed to stack the box. And as soon as Ben sees you stacking the box, it's a quick little look over to AB, once, nod, drop back, chuck it, and see you bye.
Yeah.
How many times did we see that?
Oh, I mean, for years. I mean,
that's what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because I just don't think they don't have that guy. The problem here is that I don't know, man, and I'm sounding like anti-Ben because I'm not anti-Ben.
I know.
But it's the point at which the point in their careers. I feel like I'm not sure that everything is aligned properly on the Steelers right now, because
I agree.
I don't know that Ben has the time left to be talking about, like, with Deontay after he runs a route that he didn't anticipate. And he's like, well, this is like, I wanted you to go over here. And I'm not going to say Ben's not a good leader and he shouldn't be teaching guys and so on and so forth. But I'm just saying, I think he needs some finished products, like, around him. Everything around him is so young. And, you have this new Canada offense coming in that's like a whole new style and whatever.
Right.
And there's just a certain element of old dog, new tricks that I'm just not sure. I'm not sure they're going to find that chemistry offensively. And I hate sounding doom and gloom. I think they could. I'm just saying, if you had me bet on it right now, I'm not totally positive they will. It might just be square peg, round hole.
Right. I mean, we all know that it takes a couple of games for,
Yes, disclaimer. It's week 2. Week 2. Right. We don't know anything.
Right, exactly. And neither do they, clearly.
Yeah.
And the amount of injuries that piled up for Sunday's game against the Raiders was also a contributing factor. But and we haven't even talked. We spent the last half an hour talking about the offense. We haven't even said one syllable about the defense yet.
It's a good point.
So
that is a good point. I mean, I think that's, the defense tends to get a pass. I think, you see this with the Steelers. It's the discourse around them. We see it every year in the Killer Bees era. The offense never got any flack because it was the better unit. Now the defense is the better unit. It never gets any flack. The defense it's tough. It's hard to kill them for this week because I don't think they really anticipated not having Hayden or Bush. It didn't seem to be on anybody's radar that they weren't going to play.
Yeah, I was actually, to be honest with you, I was shocked.
Me too. I'm walking into the stadium and I see it and I'm like, what the frig? Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I was shocked as well, too, to see those two out.
So, right? So you're talking about going in without those guys. You're already down to it. You lose Alu. Then you lose TJ. And this is how stuff happens. Everybody talks about how badly Minkah got burnt for the touchdown that really sealed it. To me, that was the play of the game when Minkah got burnt.
Yeah.
To push it back up to 9 after the Steelers had made it 2, and they did Renegade and all this, and you're like, okay, we're getting in this. This is classic Steelers football.
Was that the Ruggs? Was that the Ruggs?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
I did Renegade right before that. Renegade's been a disaster for me in the last 3 years. Almost every time it's been laughably bad.
Okay.
But Minkah gets burnt. But look, do I put it on Minkah? Yes, I do, because Minkah is elite. He can't get fooled. It's just but it doesn't happen hardly ever, so it's fine. I can live with it. But it's how football is a cumulative thing, right? So the game of football is all about cumulative decisions and cumulative cause and cumulative effect. So suddenly you have a guy in Minkah Fitzpatrick who knows that him and TJ Watt are the two best players on this defense. He knows TJ Watt's out. Ooh. He knows we're struggling. He knows we're in a dogfight. He's trying to do everything he can. He takes a little step forward to try to cover Waller. He gets blown by Ruggs. I'm just saying psychologically it makes sense. You know what I mean? You can follow.
Yeah.
You can follow thinking, no Joe, no TJ. I mean, he's in that huddle saying, I got to do this. I gotta win this game. And so I give Minkah a little bit of slack only because he's put down enough tape to say he's phenomenal. I just think they got to get healthy.
Okay, so
and you can't control that, really.
Exactly, that's the thing. And so all right, so we're basically saying that the defense is getting a pass on this game.
Yeah,
because of the injuries, because not just the injuries, but Alu is out for
the year. Yeah,
for the year. I mean, his ankle is broken. He had surgery.
I will give.
They've been missing Tuitt as well.
I know. Well, they can't get him back fast enough. He's got to miss at least this week. But hopefully,
know, but you get what I'm saying, though. So they're already down to it going into the game.
Oh, I know. I think the reason I give the defense slack is a little bit to do with the injuries, but also I thought that for most of the game the defense was good enough to win. And they weren't excellent, but in the first half they held them 3 scores, 3 field goals. They had 9 points. If you went into a game thinking you weren't going to have to score more than 10 points in a half to beat a team that has a decent offense, I mean, the Raiders have good skill positions. Derrick Carr is better than he gets credit for. Yeah. John Gruden's an offensive mind.
Yep.
I thought they kept him in the game. To me, the whole difference in that game, truthfully, is if they had just one other possession in the first half, the Steelers, that wasn't an absolute waste, they would have been fine. They just needed 3 more points in the first half, and the entire complexion of that game is completely different. And frankly, I think they probably pull it off. It's just, there's not enough possessions in football to just keep giving them up. You just can't. You can't do it. I used to say this 10 years ago when we play the Patriots, where I'm saying you can't put Tom back out there because he's going to score on you. And if you stop him, that was just luck. It wasn't skill. So and I see it with the Steelers for the last 2 years. Even last year when they were cooking, they still were able to pull a lot of those games out. But there were so many halves where I'm like sitting here saying, the Chiefs would have 24 points. I'm not saying you got to be perfect, and I'm not saying you got to, shoot for the moon. But you see what these teams. I mean, the Rams the last couple of years doing this with Jared Goff. It's not crazy to expect that anymore in today's NFL. And if you can't get that going ever, I mean, shit. What are you gonna do? What's the point? You got to at least get something going on offense at some point. I don't know. So that's why I guess I give the defense a pass. I don't know.
Okay, I'm with you on that because we both talked about if we watch the first game and the first game is a 3-and-out, we were both going to basically shoot off some dynamite or fling ourselves off of a freaking cliff or something.
Yeah.
Right. But see, that's what I'm talking about. It's encouraging to see that players get frustrated that they weren't able to convert, and they pull their chin straps down and they look down and they look distraught and blah blah blah. But look, in the end, you're getting paid millions of dollars to make those plays. In the end, you're getting paid a lot of money to be successful at doing those kinds of things. Here is the best people that we can put out there at this particular time for you to make that happen. Why aren't you making it happen? I mean, yeah. That's basically what you got to break it down to. I mean, really?
No, I mean, you're right. I just think I see it as I'm not sure if they have the right collection of horses that fit with one another. And I think the reality of the situation is this line is probably going to take one more year till it's done. I just think it. I agree. I think they've committed to a long-term approach here. I don't want to say that the Steelers were. I don't want to say that they didn't want Roethlisberger back, but I don't think they thought he was going to come back. I don't. No. And I think that it's surprising to me still that they didn't at least acquire a tackle. And I think the only thing I'll put on Tomlin with that is that he's shown repeatedly that there are guys that are Tomlin guys. And I think Zach Banner is one of those guys, and I hope Zach Banner can step in and be a starting caliber tackle. Yeah. However, all I'm saying is I've seen Zach Banner start one game at tackle. That's all. Maybe he can do it. I'm just saying I haven't really seen it, and I feel similarly with Chooks, who's been okay at times.
At best.
Dan Moore I just think needs some more time. Kendrick, I just think to be really good, I think just needs more time. And I don't know if you have it with Ben, and then it's like, well, what's the point if they're, I don't know. I feel conflicted. It's strange.
It is conflicting you because it is a conflicting situation. You have one of the oldest quarterbacks playing right now. You have one of the youngest lines playing right
everywhere else. The whole offense. They don't have a relevant skill player older than like 25 besides Ben.
You got a rookie running back. You got a 2-year back in McFarland, a 3-year back in Snell, right? Juju's really the only one.
Juju's the next longest tenured okay. He's the next longest tenured veteran on offense besides Roethlisberger. He's freaking 24 years old.
Okay. I mean, he's just come off his rookie contract.
Yeah.
Okay. So that in and of itself can't spell success. When you have
it's tough.
Everybody else around you is 10 years younger than you and have played 1,300 games less than you. Yeah, I mean,
I know. It's strange.
And then you expect Ben to be able to sit back there and play like that? No, you need to do what I can't believe I'm going to say this, but you need to do what Belichick did with Brady. treat Brady like he is this, you can't break him. His uniform has to be crisp and shiny at the end of the game. And if it's not, you guys are doing laps. No, but you get what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
Right? So Pittsburgh needs to have that same kind of mentality. You need to put the pieces in place for him to be successful. You need to keep his uniform nice and clean and shiny, right?
I couldn't agree more. Agree more.
So until they do that for Ben, he is never going to be fully successful.
It does seem like it's going to be an uphill battle until you can do that. Yeah, I don't know. I do want to take just a second just to say, because there are some interesting comments in the chat. We do have some more viewers in the chat than likes on the stream, so make sure you hit that like button if you are watching and enjoying the show.
Please do.
I just want to point out our good friend Austin from 5-Star Match-up is in the chat, so he's hanging out. Thanks for joining, Austin. You're not even working today, and you're still hanging out, consuming the show, so I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And Pays in the chat, who's always hanging out, says, this is almost like Ben's start of his career, just in reverse. He's the only vet and everyone else is a rookie. And that is wild. That is so bizarre.
Oh my God.
I know you and me just every week keep pining over how old Roethlisberger makes us feel because we've watched the whole thing. But that is such a trip to think about, because, I mean, remember Faneca saying some stuff about how, like, nobody wants to play with a rookie or whatever. Like, and it's 20 years later, we're looking at, the inverse. It's pretty crazy.
Isn't that amazing how the NFL works out like that?
It's wild.
I do remember those very statements from Faneca saying, what? A rookie quarterback? Yeah, sure, okay. And even Hines Ward came out and said a couple of things too, and even I
thought Hines was kind of uncool to Ben at a few times. That was kind of uncalled for, and he got off because he's Hines Ward. I thought there were times he said stuff about Ben that was kind of uncalled for, to be honest.
Well, I
know you're not allowed to talk about Hines, but
I was just going to gloss over that. I was just going to gloss over that, right? Because, look, let's face it. Yeah, he was a rookie amongst all these vets, but what did he do as a rookie? 15-1.
Yeah, he didn't lose.
I mean, okay, instant cred.
Yeah, no, it's a strange thing to think about with Ben, and there's somebody else in the chat that Pablo that says, what percentage of the problem on offense is the fault of the O-line? More than 50%. I think it's probably right around 50%. I think that's the biggest proportion of the issue. I think I'd say, in my estimation, the offensive struggles right now are roughly 50% offensive line performance, 30% Roethlisberger mental performance, and 20% inconsistent physical performance from receivers. How's that, fair?
Okay, that gives you to 100. But
yeah, I mean, that's just a
let me point out that football is 90% mental.
Sure.
Okay.
Or as Yogi Berra once said, 90% of the game is half mental.
Okay. So you get where I'm. Okay. So to me, I feel that more of the onus falls onto the offensive line.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is I believe more than 50% of what's going on here is because of the offensive line, because I would say 65%. And the reason why I'm going this high is because everything starts and ends with the offensive line. You cannot run unless you block. You cannot pass unless you can block. You understand what I'm saying?
Fair. Yeah, if
you can't even hike the ball back to the center, then it doesn't even matter. Okay, so if the center and the two guards and the two tackles can make contact, finish their blocks, and finish their assignments, then to me that's success, right? Everything else comes from behind that. Will come from behind that, right? So when the offensive line blocks, it gives Ben time to throw the ball. That gives the receivers time to get open, right? That gives the running back time to find the hole and hit the hole.
Fair, yeah.
So to me, I would say 65% would be the offensive line. I would say 10% would be Ben's mental issues or lack of issues, right? So that's 75%. So then I would say the other 25% would be split between the receivers and the running backs, either not staying with their blocks long enough or not running good enough routes or not being physical enough and or not being in a better position to make the catch. If Chase Claypool would have been in a certain different position to make some of those, he could have made those catches much easier, where only he could have made the catch instead of the defender.
Oh, no, that's what I was, that's definitely what I was getting at with the physical nature of the receivers. I do think, it's what I said earlier about Ben with teaching moments, et cetera. I think the reason that I always say the reason that I always say that I see Juju as the number one receiver on this team is because he's the most polished, complete product.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think you're seeing it a lot still, now second year with Chase and third year with Deontay, where Ben's still just trying to turn them into a finished thing. And I just think sometimes he's not sure what to anticipate from them. And Claypool for me is particularly frustrating because Claypool shows he can do it sometimes. Yeah. It's just not all the time. And to me, I don't know. I think they don't have a dominant receiver. To me, they have a bunch of really good receivers who aren't guys that really scare a defense. And I think Deontay is good enough at creating separation that he could be something of that guy, but I think his size is always going to be a limiter because he's not, he's not AB. He's not unbelievable. He's just really good at it.
Yeah.
I think Claypool is the guy. If one guy is going to become a dominant receiver, it's going to be Claypool, or it could be actually Freiermuth too. But still, as far as a guy that can push you deep, I'm saying that's Claypool's the archetype. Claypool's the guy that you're banking on to be able to do that.
That's exactly right. And we talk about this a lot in hockey, where when you go into an arena, do you have a player on your club that the other team has to, when they jump out on the ice, the other team suddenly perk up and go, uh-oh, we got to cover that guy because no matter what, that guy's going to score.
Yeah. Well, that's why we said it earlier, but that's why the Killer Bees were so good, because you had two of those guys you had to think about with 26 and 84.
And then you throw 7 in there, just dropping dimes all over the
and
place.
Martavis Bryant threatening to take the top off anytime you wanted. I mean,
you know what? Yeah. Okay, so until you get that's what I'm talking about. Pittsburgh right now there is no receiver right now that has stepped into that role. Yes, I agree. Juju is the most polished, finished product. I agree, but I also agree. I think Chase has to be that player that when teams go, hey guys, we're playing the Steelers. Oh,
yeah, we got to prepare for number 11.
Yeah, we got number 11. Well, we got to make sure that he doesn't get a lot of catches. And then the same thing can be true about Najee, because I think he has that talent.
He does.
Okay, he showed
I'm just not sure all of these points are going to align on a timeline that coincides with Ben Roethlisberger.
That's
sadly and uncomfortably.
And it's not necessarily that it's not going to align with Ben Roethlisberger. I don't think it's going to align with the maturation of this offensive line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is
Okay.
why I told you a couple weeks ago. I mean, we're still getting into hypotheticals here, so I don't want to go too far down this. But I will say that's why I still really think that the next quarterback is going to be a free agent. Because this team is going to be mostly a finished product by the time Ben leaves, whether it's after this season or next.
Unless
you can get a really top end guy, but unless they fall through the floor, I don't think they're really going to have, a bad.
Okay, well, all right. So let me throw something at you, and this is something that I was thinking about, right? Because I saw this wretched tweet earlier today, or posting on Facebook or something. I forget where I saw it, but said that had a picture of somebody saying that if Ben can't play this week, right, because of his pec injury, right, and Mason Rudolph comes out. Yeah. And Mason Rudolph comes out and has a monster game, right? And it said, just asking for a friend. And I'm just like, look, all I really wanted to say to that was...
all I would say about it is if and when the time comes for Mason to play a game this season, if he plays well like he did against Cleveland last year, it's going to be an interesting conversation is all I'm saying. I don't know. Until I see consistent quality from Ben, I haven't seen more than one good half in a game from Ben since, I don't know, the Jaguars game last year.
That's was what, week 11? 11? Yeah.
I mean, really, if I think about
Seriously? Yeah.
I'm just going down a path here that I hate going down because I'm the biggest fan of Roethlisberger on the internet. I'm not knocking him. I'm just pointing out at this point, even this year, I thought he was pretty terrible in the first half of the Bills game. I was willing to forgive it because he pulled it together in the second half, did some good veteran QB things, got the dub on the road. Always appreciated. Not going to knock it. Even this week, I thought he was moving the ball okay, and they were doing okay in the second half. But again, first half, you got one touchdown. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is out here getting 2 touchdowns before he even gets warmed up.
So, all right. Now,
I don't think, for what it's worth, Paige, I don't think you're going to see Roethlisberger miss time with this. He played the whole game. If it really was that bad, it didn't look like he was physically unable to.
I think they're just probably saying that so that there could be some doubt because they're playing against Cincinnati. And I think they're also saying that, too, so that gives them an excuse.
They're doing it so the offensive line will try to play good.
Or to give Roethlisberger some time off, or to give Haskins some time back there, Rudolph, or whatever.
I mean,
Anyway, that's the other thing too, But now we've said a lot about the offense. We've spoken very little about the defense, and that's one of the things I want to touch on here real quickly about the defense, and that's this. When you continually lose player after player, it gets tough to try to take guys down. It gets tougher and tougher to be the next man up and how many times did we see like Schobert out there running with Waller, right?
Constantly. Yeah. I said it in the show. I was like, don't give, because he had one good coverage rep, and then I was like, you can't give Keith ideas because then he'll just do it forever.
It's not Bush. Right, he's not Bush, and look, Spillane did it.
I think
twice.
Schobert's better in coverage than Bush, actually.
Yeah, but Bush is faster, though.
He is, but he's not as good at it.
Splitting hairs.
We're splitting hairs, but
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Would you much rather have a guy who can cover in a short distance, or a guy who can sort of cover but have the closing speed in longer distances?
Yeah, I guess it's a toss up. I don't know. I mean, Schobert, if you actually watch him play pass defense, like as far as his angles and everything, the guy's actually really good at it. I'd rather him in coverage. I don't think Bush is cut out for it. I think Bush is a sideline to sideline,
right?
Run stuffer, and
exactly.
I think that's where I think that's why they got Schobert. I think they wanted him to fill that role.
And that's another reason why I think they got Ingram too, because really liked what I saw out of Ingram.
He's very impressive.
Both him and Schobert are both Pro Bowl players. You know what I mean? So how could you go? But them not knowing the defense, so they're still thinking.
Yeah, I don't think I see that. I think maybe a little with Schobert, but with Ingram, I don't think so. I think Ingram is playing what he's doing at outside backer to him as pretty much what he was doing in San Diego and LA. Right. I think to me he was such a perfect signing because he just fits right into the scheme. I think you're going to see him just get better and better. The problem is you still need number 90 on the other side, and I'm just hoping this doesn't become a lingering issue. I called him out a little bit when we got into the first week, and he still wasn't practicing before he signed the deal. I love me some Trent Jordan-Watt. He is impressive. He's amazing. He's probably the best player on the team. However, I just have to point out, as I did 2 weeks ago, if this was Juju and then this happened like we all thought it might, the narrative would be a lot more poisonous than it is. And I'm just saying we feared this would happen, and it literally happened.
The same thing happened with Le'Veon Bell, too. The exact same thing happened with Le'Veon.
Well, he missed time, but he took time to get good, but he didn't get hurt. He just took time to acclimate.
No, what I'm saying is that when he did come back and then he did have an injury and he did miss like 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying is that when he held out the first time, came back, right, and he missed however many games, came back, and then missed 2 or 3 more or 2.5 more games subsequently because of a lingering groin or hamstring or whatever, right?
Yeah,
because that it's a soft tissue injury. Well, soft tissue injuries happen because you're not working them.
Yeah, well, he wasn't doing football things, you know? And I said this half jokingly on Twitter today, but what if the reason they didn't add a tackle in training camp was because they didn't realize that, they weren't going against their best defensive pass rusher. I mean, that's the thing. TJ Watt didn't play a single rep of actual football in August. How much better does Dan Moore Jr. look if he's going after any? I mean, that's not even disrespect to Highsmith or Ingram or Jameer Jones or Quincy Roche, but ain't none of those guys are TJ Watt.
That's true.
That's all I'm saying. Ain't none of them even close to Trent Jordan. So
that's a good point. I never even thought of it like that, but that's a heck of a point, man. The fact that's who you're lining up against to practice with?
I mean, those guys are talented, but they're not TJ.
Oh my gosh! Look,
you might have gotten Russell Okung on the phone in August if you saw Dan Moore take a few reps against TJ, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on that though. But what an interesting point too. And then if he's not practicing now, even now, you're still not allowing that offensive line to get any better because
it's gonna be October before DJ has more than 2 practices in a week. And if that was Juju, the people would be like, "Oh, I bet you he still gets his paycheck every week." Like, all I'm saying is exactly what you fear could happen happened with the best player on defense.
Let's just say this. Every player gets their check every game week. That's the only time players get checks.
Yeah.
They do not at the end of the season, right? The last game, unless you make playoffs or Super Bowl or whatever, that last game, that's the last check you get for the year. Right? We'll see you again in August. That's when your next check's gonna come.
Yeah.
All right. So, they're getting paid, but
I don't know, man. All I know is it has been 2 weeks, and I think we know, honestly, maybe even less than we did about the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 weeks ago. And this is the Steelers. This is the Steelers every year. This is every year, and every year people freak out. Every year, whatever. This team's going to be like, at some point, it's going to, it's going to be a rough start. I really thought they'd be like 3-2 to start the season. And then they're going to go on a little run somewhere. They're going to be like 9-3 or something. And we're all going to start to buy in. And we're going to say, oh, the Canada offense is working. The offensive line is gelling. And something's going to happen, this, that, the other thing. It's Steelers football. You can't freak out after one good win. You can't freak out after one good loss.
You know what I mean? I'm so with you on that, but I watch this other video that I watch, very humorous, and this person particularly pointed out that it seemed like he was watching a rerun of the game.
Are you talking about Pittsburgh Dad? Probably.
Yes.
Yeah. You could mention it. He's an approved viewing source. Okay, it's all right.
All right, cool.
He's an approved viewing source. 5-star matchup.
Cool. Because my gosh, man, like last year, the two things that I looked forward to the most was 5-star matchups commentary after the game, right? And I knew I would always get that way sooner than the Pittsburgh Dad, right? So I get the way cool stuff first, then I get the funny stuff second, right? You know what I mean?
Hey, that's what we do even on a loss week. So peeps, make sure you check out that loss episode. I can see that those numbers are significantly smaller than the win episodes, and it takes just as much work. So go check it out and laugh through the pain. I wasn't even intending to do a plug there. Pittsburgh Dad is a pioneer in the space, obviously. Nothing but great words about what they do over there. I don't watch them. I have said this on the show before. I don't watch them only because there's so much crossover in what we do in terms of telling jokes about the Steelers. I mean, it's a very specific trade to be in if you think about it.
Very much so.
I don't want to have, as a comedian, like, too much I don't want to be
I get it
on the same
yeah
and then accidentally say something that I didn't realize I lifted, because comedy can be like that sometimes, man.
And people can be very sticklers when it comes to that. Like, I work with a guy on one of my hockey shows called the Hockey Writers Inc., where I work with a writer who writes for the Flyers. Well, he doesn't read other people's stuff, and he doesn't listen to other people's shows. He just writes his articles and does our show for that very reason, so that he doesn't get blamed, or so that there's none of that crossover where, he said something that somebody else said. So I completely understand and respect that. But yeah, Pittsburgh Dad was like, threw some reruns in there. I was like, yeah, that pretty much
just more of the same. I've been down the path. But the other thing about that is I know that I could be feeling great in 4 weeks, because that's how the Steelers go.
One question for you.
Sure.
Last question. What do you think about Cincinnati this week?
I feel pretty good. I think this sets up perfectly to be a game where the Steelers have a get right moment. I think Burrow, the statistics kind of say that he has been second guessing a little bit, not delivering it quite on time. He's just a little off. And that's what I heard back in camp too, that people that were being honest were saying he really wasn't lighting it up. And I think he'll get there, but he's coming off a major injury after 1 year in the league. He's still only played
12 weeks,
8, 9, 10 games. I don't know how many.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I think it was like 12 weeks or something, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember when he got hurt last year.
It was later. It was more later in the season.
Yeah, but regardless, you're talking about a quarterback matchup where you're talking about 180 games or however many Roethlisberger's played, 200 games versus
12.
Yeah. So to me, that's a situation where you just got to get the dub no matter how you get it. You can't lose 2 games in a row at home. In September. I can deal with a clunker here and there. It is division. Cincinnati's not bad. For me, major concerns are whether or not those 2 guys that were surprise inactives on Sunday, whether or not they're healthy enough to play. Because I think Bush is gigantic against a team that has Joe Mixon and is not afraid to run it. And Joe Hayden is so underrated in what he means to that defense. You saw the trickle down effect. Week 1, we came away saying, wow, Sutton was the player of the game and Pierre played really well. And Trey Norwood even made some plays. Suddenly this week, you're playing a team that arguably their passing game isn't as good as the team from week 1. But because Sutton is now the number 1 guy and Pierre's the number 2 guy and Norwood's the number 3 guy, then it's not – it really affects the bottom line. And I just – so I don't know. I hope those 2 guys, especially Joe, can play because they have really very good receivers.
I would much rather – I'm with you. I would much rather see Joe play because that allows Edmonds to be more of a run support and allows Minka to be more of the, center fielder.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Because I like Minka more, I hate to say this, but more in the Troy mode where allow him to just go out there and just be him. And
I want Minka to direct traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. That's kind of how I look at Minka. Right. And but Edmonds is that he's that a Batman to Robin to him. You know what I mean? Because he's able to be more of that run support, run stop. I would much rather see Edmonds on Waller or the tight ends than Joe Schobert or Bush or any of the linebackers.
Well, what I thought going into that game based on size alone was I thought you were going to see some combination of Schobert or Bush plus Pierre on Waller because Pierre's big. He's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of potential, but he's not as refined as Joe and Sutton at the technique elements of the game because he's a young kid. He hasn't played as much.
Rookie.
But body size, I think he was around last year. Definitely last year. I don't know if that was his first year, but he's not. He didn't play much, but he's not a rookie.
I wonder if he was on the practice squad.
Maybe he definitely got a couple snaps later on, but
all right,
whatever. It's neither here nor there. But
he's still young though, and he's going to take a little bit.
Not
of time
a lot of
to
reps,
develop.
yeah. And I think it's just tough to ask those guys to do what a Joe Hayden does. For as much as Joe Hayden is such an unsung guy on that D, he's so important in that trickle down effect, especially with Nelson. I mean, but I'll say even the last 2 years we noticed it. Even when we had Nelson. When Joe was out and Nelson had to be like the number 1 guy, not as good results.
As good. Yeah,
Joe is good, man. He knows how to play the position.
It's amazing because when you saw him in the first week, he was flying all over the field.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean?
No, I got so much love for Hayden, man. He's aging about as well as you can at that position. Very impressive.
I remember when he was coming out of college.
I wanted him so bad.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh.
No, he was always a crush for me. Even when he was on the Browns, I was like, oh, that guy. I like him. What
we got to do to get you over here, buddy? Come on.
Yeah, he's just got a vibe, man. I just think
I'm with you.
I think he's a good dude. I think he's good people.
Yeah, but he fits the Steeler mold though.
He really
he did
does.
Not fit the Cleveland mold, and he even said it when he came over here, like his second year over here. He was like, man. He said, I didn't know that winning games could feel this good.
I know. The sad thing is the Browns have won more games since Joe Hayden's been here than the Steelers have. More playoff games. We haven't won a playoff game since Joe's been here.
You are not allowed to say that kind of stuff anymore. By the way, you are also not allowed to go to any more. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just being a hater. I gotta hate every once in a while. I gotta take it out in the chat. I gotta vent my frustrations because nobody's watching my loss episode that I made in the Hampton Inn in Sewickley, PA. So I'm being a little. I'm being a little salty. I love everybody. It's all good. We're having
Yep.
a good time. I think we should bring this one around
Yep.
around the bend, though. Steel Flyers, you got any last thoughts? Any plugs you want to do? So on,
Yeah,
so forth,
for
et
sure,
cetera, et
man.
cetera.
For sure. Be looking for. I'll be doing a show here with Jim Jackson, the voice of the Flyers. I'll be coming up here. Yeah, that's going to be coming up here. The start of the hockey season starts the 15th. So that week in between, I'll be doing a show with him there. And then some changes to the website coming, hopefully some sponsorships. Swag should be about 2 weeks away. Oh, snap.
Very exciting.
Yeah, man. Very, very exciting about that for sure, though. Check me out, man, online, www.steelflyers.com. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Man, check me out. I got a lot of great content, not just about the Steelers, but about other sports as well, too. So check it out, man. Appreciate it.
Very cool. We love to hear it. Thanks for hanging out on this fine Tuesday. From my end, just make sure you watch the show every week. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you interact with our stuff. Very important. Our project manager / on radio talent, Austin, has officially transitioned 5-Star Radio to now it publishes on Spotify after we do it, like the post-game show and everything. So if you can do me a favor and just follow the show over there, helps us get a couple of pennies here and there. So make sure you do that. Go ahead.
Speaking of which, we put Steel Flyers All Sports Network will also be putting the show out on Spreaker tomorrow.
Oh, excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So a copy of the show will go out tomorrow. And then that'll go out on Spreaker, and Spreaker puts it out. I just got the list of all of the approved outlets. So
the aggregators, the podcast.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So you'll be out on Google. You'll be out. Yep. You'll also be out on, I believe, iHeart.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
Wherever you get your content, just search 5-Star Radio.
That's right.
You will find it. You will hear me complaining about Mike Tomlin. You will enjoy it. You will share it. And most importantly, you will keep coming back every week for the next 17 weeks because don't leave me now. It's been one loss. We got a lot of football left, ladies and gentlemen. Steel Flyers, stick around. I'll say goodbye to you in real life. Everybody in the chat, love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Y'all are the best. Until next time, see ya.